teammates work together, Bainant Smith looks to be well in control of his blaster as he finds the correct route. But then blots his copybook by getting on the power a tad early, and he lets the rear wheel take out a fence post and a few meters of fencing. Poor farmer. Meanwhile, on the East Loop, the Toyota Land Cruiser of Reiniger and Houghton was simply flying. During the summer break, tuning fundi Roger Taylor had been given the task of turning the Land Cruiser into a proper off-road racer. It now features much more suspension travel and better weight distribution as opposed to last year's car. Former Formula Ford and GTI circuit racer Bahrain was still holding off the much more powerful race car of Carolyn, but the nature of the terrain and heavy dust ensured that passing was almost impossible. Carolyn was also being hampered by a rear brake problem, which didn't help matters at all. Alberts and Mateo were running strongly. Their VW-powered race car is fitted with a trick automatic gearbox, which in certain conditions is a great help. Barker and Latergan were holding a strong second in the production category race. Despite the V8 sounding strong, they seemed unable to make any impression on the leading Toyota. Special category championship leaders Harvey and Stone were running at a steady pace in fourth, but keeping a watchful eye on Schilling and Thorne, who were charging hard after suffering a puncture. Gentlemen pull off far enough to allow other competitors free passage when they strike problems. This is one of the unwritten laws of off-road racing. Eastern Cape's Class B quick-fit racecar crew of Newton Love and Colin Pote must have been relieved to see that that rule is still respected. Prior to the start, they were lying 6th in the championship, and a good result here was all important for them. Tony Yo, who races with his wife Mandy, had higher hopes for his Sabat Land Rover.
Competition-wise, Pajera's my benchmark, and I'm going to take an ex-Perry Deco Pajera and give him carrots this time. It's his turn. And of course, see what we can do with the other 4x4s. Should beat Cliffy and see what we can do with that one.
A positive man. Powered by a 2.8-litre BMW motor, the Landy can be heard from miles away. Kenny Schultheimer was also upbeat.
Well, you know what they say. We'll talk tomorrow night. He's not in my category, he's in Class D, but I think this little Class E can do the job and beat him. So we'll have a look tomorrow evening. We'll look at the results when they show.
Woolridge and Vermaak were still running well, not quite on the leader's pace, but well enough considering that they were keeping an eye on the temperature gauge and only having two-wheel drive with which to transmit 3.5 litres of supercharged power to the ground. At least they were happy and still mobile.
And what happened to you?
No, we ran out of fuel.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Gonna get some more, see if we can get going again.
What problem did you have?
No, we just got stuck inside here, and then we broke the car. Somebody tried to pull me out, and he smashed the engine cage onto the alternator. So I can't.
It.
Yeah, that's all.
So guys, this is it. Back on the road again.
Back on the road, yeah. Get going. We still got till, I think, cut-off's about 4 o'clock, so we should finish it. Got enough fuel in the pits.
Yeah, well, no, fine. By now, the leading bikes were on the East Loop, having completed their first section, and Cox was showing no signs of relaxing his pace at the front. He makes it look so easy, doesn't he? A couple of minutes behind Campbell was having the race of his life, despite finding the odd car stuck en route. No problems, though, as the drivers had either pulled off or given fair warning. It was the same for everyone, though, and Spencer Krill seemed to be enjoying himself. Next up was the ever-spectacular Darryl Curtis on his trusty KTM. In fact, it almost seemed as though the two-wheel brigade had entered into a competition, unofficial that is, to see who could land closest to our poor cameraman. That's a tough job, but someone has to do it. There was the odd stream that competitors had to contend with. 200 class leader Van Niekerk hardly seemed to notice it at all. Neither did fellow KTM rider Evan Pretorius, nor Shimwell's Yamaha rider Craig Ramsey. By now the cars were well into the West Loop and the order at the front hadn't changed at all. But it soon did, as Reiniger punctured a tyre and dropped back a few places. Often races like this become a race of attrition, but this year all the front-running cars had proved to be reliable. Class B leader Bahrain was still holding off his bigger engine rival Carolyn. This battle had been raging since the start and showed little signs of letting up. Tarka winners Harvey and Stone still held third in the category and were close enough to the leaders to take advantage should either of them wrong slot or pick up a puncture. Schilling's enthusiasm almost got the better of him. Those trees are many and unforgiving. Barker was still holding second in the production category and was having his final outing in his Land Rover that took him to the 94 championship. His new steed will be both lighter and more powerful. Remy Moons and Frans van Lissau travelled from Windhoek, but it was to no avail as they retired before completing the second section. There was a lot more water on this section than on the first loop, but dust was still a problem. Locals Richard Everingham and Dion LaRue have always gone well on this event in their self-built ETT Bushmaster. On this loop they moved up to second in class to maintain their record. Although the quads had started well behind the bikes, the cars had easily caught some of the stragglers. It must be pretty scary being a quad rider and knowing that there's a 2-ton Land Rover bearing down on you. Sadly, the Land Rover never made it to the end after its gearbox gave up the ghost. By now, the leading Pajero was starting to slip back a bit as the roads became rougher and two-wheel drive became a bigger disadvantage. Lesotho's Wilfried Weslau's unique Perspex-bodied racecar enables spectators to see a driver at work. He's one of the stalwarts of off-road racing and has been for almost 20 years. Former two-wheel expert Nick Harper, now teamed up with Andrew Chalupsky, was struggling with the dust and a puncture on their ex-Schilling championship-winning racecar. That didn't help them either. Another Lesotho-based crew is that of Alex Sally and Ashraf Abu Bakr in the Lady Brand Land Rover V8 racecar. Despite a misfire, they were looking for a top 6 placing. Perhaps the most unusual car seen regularly is the plastic-bodied Chev special of Johan Gerber and Kutsiela Viscagni. The ex-Woolridge Nissan Sani Turbo is in the hands of Derek and Tina de Bruin, but they were not having a very happy time of it at all.
Cautions are marked. Some of the cautions are marked in the right places and others in the wrong places. We've damaged 2 rims, we've had 2 blowouts so far, and you also have a heating. I think we've blown head gaskets. But other than that, yeah, it's a good event. It's a good race.
And other than that, everything was fine, thank you. Some of the regional motorcyclists were also battling. Ian Marsh and Yamaha barely flopped in the mud, and to add insult to injury, quad leader Van Deventer arrives and covers him in mud again. Van der Merwe could do little about reducing the gap to Van Deventer and had almost resigned himself to second place, although he still had Stubik too close for comfort. After more than 7 hours in the cockpit, Bahrain had arrived back at the Bourbon Farmers Club to claim the win after a closely fought race with Carolyn. With the taxing conditions and without the luxury of a navigator, Marius admitted that it was a difficult task.
It was this morning. It was very slippery, it was wet, we couldn't see, the sun was shining in our eyes up until about 8:30, and after that we started pushing the pace a bit and everything went well for me.
Second, despite doing the last section without any rear brakes, which lost him 5 minutes, was Carolyn. Then it was Harvey and Stone after another steady performance. The drive of the day must surely go to Piazza Musso and Vught, who started third last after their time trial mishap and finished 11th. Reinicke and Houghton were convincing production category winners, and you can bet that they were happy to be back on the rostrum again.
30 kilometers uit van die einde af tot 'n papwiel gekry. Wat ons bietjie baie tyd geneem, omtrent 8 minute afgevat van ons om te ruil. En 2 van die spysvriends by ons verby, weer die een gevang, maar nie kon nie daarin slaag om die tweede een te vang nie, maar nogtans baie tevrede omdat ons kategorie wen. Ons neem nie deel, ons kompeteer nie teen die spysvriends nie, maar dit is altyd lekker om hulle weg te ry.
Some 8 minutes after the Toyota, Barker and Lateghan came home to take second, while the Birkin brothers got third to take the Class E honours ahead of Schulthammer and Mark Ferguson in the Pajero. Class G went to Hein Grobler and Charles Vormerans in yet another Toyota, while none of the Class F cars finished. With wife Hazel and the newest Cox baby waiting for him, Cox arrived home to take the motorcycle honours with a comfortable 5-minute gap over 250 class winner, teammate Darrell Curtis, who'd stopped to help an injured rider. Hello, recognize your dad? Yes, of course you do.
Another great victory then?
Yeah, today I had to use the dust to my advantage, and you know, yesterday I knew I'd have an absolutely perfect time trial, and it worked well for me to get the lead. And then I knew this morning they would have to catch me and pass in the dust, and we know it's winter time now and it's very dusty here, and I just used the dust to my advantage, kept a good pace all day, and it's been really great.
Good finish, but somewhat of an interesting day for you.
It's worked very hard today. We started off this morning, I left 8th, and Lance Chathur and myself found Errol Dalton that had a very bad fall, and we helped him get back on his feet, concussed and all the rest. And then we left again. We left about 25th, and we had to work our way through the field again, so it was a very hard day for me. There's a lot of dust and it was very hot out there. And the last 2 laps I especially had a hard time with Robin Campbell and Spencer Creel. I followed them all the way through on the second last lap, and then luckily on the last lap, they both made mistakes and I got through.
Great sportsmanship there. Jeffrey Wanneter won the 200 class to make it a KTM benefit race. Well, almost.
I train a lot, I train 4 times a week, and you find you get your second wind and you just keep going, you just get stronger and stronger as the race goes on.
Behind Curtis were Yamaha riders Rob Campbell and Spencer Krill, while Elmer Simmons was the first Honda rider home in 5th ahead of Barry Krill on another Yamaha. 200 class winner Wanneter claimed 10th. There was no question about the quad winner as Van Deventer arrived to huge applause after yet another great ride.
Nee, ek het nie probleme gehad nie. Dit was baie lekker. Die tweede loop was halwe van 'n short course met al die ramps en goed. Dit het nog my goal uitgehaal. Maar dit is baie lekker. Ek geniet so wedren. Ek dink dit is fantasties om so kort wedren te hê. Lang wedren, die spoed is te vinnig. Hierdie wedren is fantasties.
Van der Merwe was second as Yamaha rider Mark Breckel managed to get ahead of Strubich on the last loop to snatch 3rd place. A good performance from John Craig Costello saw him take the 200cc class honours. And spare a thought for this man, Paulo Piazzamuso, who overtook more competitors than anyone else. Round 4 of the series is the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, which takes place in Botswana over the weekend of the 12th to the 13th of June. Until then, happy motoring.